Warning: the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are based on psychic impressions and true life events that may be potentially frightening and or disturbing to some viewers. Any of the information that is shared in this production should not replace the advice of medical professionals and is intended for general purposes only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. The name of this recording is Let's Try This Again. Hashtag haunting hazards and house fires. The last recording we did, I ended up having some issues because I had a crazy ass week with some paranormal shit. And my house literally almost caught on fire. My iPad quit working and I had to switch over to another device, which evidently our host service does not like Android products and they like Apple better. Therefore, their bias caused me to have a shitty recording that would have took hours to fix. So we decided just to record our intro separately again. Take a lot less time.
Those motherfuckers.
I know. Bastards. But yeah, so from our first recording, we took notes and we're just going to pick right back on up. And today we're going to be talking about haunted objects. So in our last episode, we talked about haunted places and haunted faces. Actually, haunted person versus haunted place, but that rhymed and I liked it better. Oh, by the way, me and Emily, we are two mediums that specialize in the paranormal. Our purpose is to shed light on what goes bump in the night. That's why we call our podcast Lights at Midnight. Haha, I remembered.
Word, a big bird.
That's our little rhymey thing. And there's a lot going on with that too. We got a lot of things planned in the works for this season. It's getting more exciting, behind the scenes work. And we are also working on a Patreon. So our goal is to launch that hopefully by the new year if we can get our shit together, which, yeah, anyways.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Me and her have never done a podcast, but I think we're doing so far so good, maybe. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think we're doing spectacular.
Okay, good. I feel good. I feel a lot more positive than I did Sunday when everything went to hell and my house almost caught on fire and I had an entity running around, so...
Oh, today, I forget what I was doing. I think I was working on our link tree and something felt weird. And so I took a picture, kind of like how you did, and it looked different because I took 3 and one in the middle was a little not like the others.
Yeah, that's interesting because I did what Emily's referring to. If you didn't see our social post, you can go on Instagram or TikTok. Probably our Facebook as well and see an actual image that I had taken. But yeah, if you're feeling an energetic difference, then it's probably a good idea to snap a couple photos because that's exactly what I did. And once I lightened the photo, there is an object that was not there. All I did was change like the contrast and you're able to actually see a lot more, but the photo speaks for itself. So you can go to our socials and check that out. Maybe Emily can do a sick, because that would be a haunted place photo. Mine was like a haunted face. That could be a haunted place. So yeah. Anyways, we got a really, really cool episode. We have our first official special guest with Dead Serious Investigations. This fella is coming on here shortly, and he also, not only does he investigate the paranormal and takes photos like we were just talking about, he actually has a room full of his own collection of haunted objects. But before we get started with that, we're just going to kind of briefly cover what is a haunted object and how do they become haunted? And we'll probably save the rest of the goodies for the interview. And after the interview, we may end up doing a additional haunted objects episode if this doesn't run too long. And it will contain what I have personally experienced with haunted objects, the haunted object I actually possess myself, and my trip up to Connecticut to see the real Annabelle doll, as well as other occult museum objects up there from Ed and Lorraine Warren. Me and my fiance V went up there. He's going to hop on for a little bit and give his side of the story. So this will be either one big fat episode or two really awesome episodes. So you
A
definitely want
fatty daddy.
Fatty Daddy.
A
Yep.
fatty daddy.
Fatty Daddy.
And once you get done with your Annabelle thing, maybe, wink, wink, hint, hint, I might talk about my experience with Robert the Doll.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I guess with all that being said, we can go ahead and hop right on in because this is going to be a big mamma jamma.
Yes.
All right. So, what are haunted objects? So, it can really be anything, but commonly they're known for being dolls, antique furniture, past relative possessions, and the internet famous Dybbuk box.
The Dybbuk. I don't know.
Yeah,
I thought that was funny.
I'm country. Yeah, I'm country as hell. So I'm gonna. Yeah, y'all already figured that out probably. All my words and ways. Yeah, over done. Hopefully y'all can half understand me. No, I'm kidding.
And then some of them, I believe, like with that are haunted or somewhat cursed as well. And we'll be discussing how that can go hand in hand with haunted items.
Exactly. And we basically figured that there's three types of haunted objects. Now, we could be totally wrong. This is not honestly our specialty, but we have figured that there are generally three types. So, a possessed or attachment, we had a discussion about this in our last one, type of object, a residual energetic imprint on an object, or a cursed object. So we'll be diving into the differences between those two as well throughout this episode or episodes. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be great. I can't wait to get up with the fellow from Dead Serious Investigations. He's super excited as well. Yeah, we're getting her done.
I love saying that. I say that on a daily basis.
Alrighty. Well, without further ado, Lights at Midnight podcast.
Pod crash.
Yeah, pod crash and burn. Without further ado, Lights at Midnight podcast proudly presents to you our first guest, Dead Serious Investigations. Yeah. I'm going to let him go ahead and kick off with introducing who he is and what he's been up to.
Yes, my name is Duran Conrad. I am the lead paranormal investigator and demonologist to Dead Serious Investigations. Now, I have been working on some extensive projects, and when I mean extensive, I mean they've been long delayed, but for good reason. The reason of this delay is the discoveries we've been making throughout the time of shooting these investigations.
Okay.
So, and yeah, there's a lot going on that's out of the barrier of what people are actually really looking into. As far, when I mean that, I mean like if you look at a lot of stuff on TV, there's a lot of stuff that I'm looking at where they're not looking at the real big picture of what's really going on, and that's kind of where I've kind of stretched myself out beyond that barrier of understanding what's going on in this phenomenon.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's a lot that, on TV people see this and then they don't, it's not a clear picture of exactly what you're explaining. Yeah, I like that. That's awesome.
Exactly. And also a good way of explaining this is that with TV, you're mass producing investigations, which doesn't really give you enough time to really look into stuff. So there could be a lot of stuff that's missed and overlooked. So because they have to move on to the next thing. quickly because they're on they have to pump out a certain amount of content, certain amount of time.
Right.
So as starting doing this, I got myself in this pattern where I'm putting a lot more time in one area and trying to get a full understanding and unlocking an unveil of an area of finding out what's going on that people have people don't understand but will understand when I actually come up with not just the evidence but the knowledge of the evidence.
That's really smart. I mean, that's a great take. Truly, it is.
Yeah, so that's why when I started doing these lives and stuff, I started doing the lives before releasing full investigations or anything that I have in the works right now. That I'm processing all the evidence, looking through it, and make sure that they're actually very genuine finds, and separating stuff that could be explained versus the unexplained.
Right.
Um, and yeah, these lives are to get people um, to understand what they're going to approach themselves with when they see what they're going to see when I release it. And kind
Yeah,
of,
that's crazy.
and
That's
kind of,
crazy awesome.
yeah. This also just, it increases that awareness within that individual. So
Correct.
when, and when that individual's awareness is up, that conscious state is up. So, and I feel is extremely important when you're watching this type of phenomenon because what people are going to be watching can be dangerous even electronically if they're not in the right state of consciousness.
I
I
agree with
agree with
that.
that. So that's so yeah, that's I feel like that would be a really good start approach of basically what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's amazing, really. I mean, that's a good take. A lot of people don't really, you're bringing a point in to where a lot of people really don't fully understand, even though they may like the subject, just like probably how we all, in a way, got started out of interest or even just phenomenon that happened in our lives. They don't understand the repercussions of things when they pick up a spirit box and they start communicating with something they don't understand. So the work you're doing is very important.
Exactly. The research is important. The studies are important. The right state of consciousness is important. And
Yeah.
your confidence is important. Your awareness is important. A lot of people just kind of ignore those types of things and just basically they feed off the urge to get into this based off just the curiosity. And that's where things get dangerous
Yeah.
is
And
when
people
you're
can pick up
when you,
stuff.
yeah, when you start doing stuff based off curiosity versus the knowledge of it and knowing what you're doing, it can get dangerous, especially with a lot of these people doing things alone with not knowing what to do. They're like, "It's my first time doing this," and they're out there by themselves doing this, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden they got scratch marks and then they end up, having all sorts of problems when they get home. And then their house has paranormal activity, and it never had paranormal activity. And now there's starting to be paranormal activity in their living space. And it could get really dangerous. Spirit attachment, demon attachment, whatever attachment it is, if you feed it the fear, it could escalate because each time that's a resource of food for those um, lower realm entities to feed off of.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can speak. Emily, I know you agree here. This is exactly kind of stuff that we cover.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what's important for everybody, for our listeners. We want them to understand, and that's why we're starting with origins and how this stuff happens. And a new, fresh perspective of yours is amazing to have. So we greatly appreciate it. Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, and I've been studying this stuff for a long time since I was, I think, 12. I started looking into books when I
that's
started
awesome.
really discovering that this was something that. So what I've been seeing is actually a real thing. what I've been experiencing is a real thing. Like when I seen books about it, I'm like, wow, I thought this was just like I was having nightmares of it because I was watching it on TV and it was in my head. But no, this is a real phenomenon that actually does happen. It's in books. It's in like people investigate this stuff. And I was like,
Yeah.
and it completely opened my eyes to really be fascinated and learning to kind of start knowing about it and getting into it. And now that I'm 35, all these years of just taking in all that knowledge, it's kind of it had just this long road of patterns to add up, and you start just unlocking a lot of stuff and understanding, and that awareness and confidence just built up. And people are like, how do you deal with this with a day by day basis? And really what it is it's the awareness and confidence uh, is just skyrocketed with me to where I no longer fear what I don't see anymore because I've
Right.
already
I'm 35 too, and I've same time frame almost for me too as you. When I was 12 is when all of it happened to me. Almost exactly. That's crazy.
yeah, yeah. That is pretty amazing. Um,
Yeah.
the and I have seen my fair share of phenomenon like this for many years, so it's not really that I'm used to it. It's more of the understanding of it. And I think that's where that level of knowledge of this is. It's kind of, that saying that knowledge is your sword and your protection is your shield in this. So the knowledge is extremely important because if you don't have the knowledge and you're going out there in the field, you don't have anything that could feel like that would basically not just protect you from it, but the word that I'm trying to look for is more of to stand stand off what's at the lower realm state of consciousness in the invisible spectrum from attacking you. So that means also, restoring your heart chakra, which is extremely important because these demons, these reptilian entities, and anything low vibrational, they don't have a heart chakra. They don't have a heart. So they despise that. They hate that in humans.
Yeah.
So, that's why, that chakra is extremely important to us as humans. So if we have that restored heart chakra in us, it's a huge effect, and it makes it harder for them to attach because lower vibrational entities, they could only attach through the lower chakras. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
So, this is the kind of stuff I started picking up and started understanding when I started following these patterns of how these entities work. And working with studying the behaviors of haunted objects was a whole nother phenomenon versus haunted places.
Right.
And
Right. Yeah, it's different. It's totally different.
there's a lot of personalities. Every haunted object has a personality it carries.
Interesting.
And
Interesting.
yeah, so I've dealt with sassy objects,
Hmm.
and I've dealt with objects that are very manipulative, um, and some, that just are wild and crazy where they just don't really have a sense of stable personality because there's so many entities intertwined in it.
That's very interesting. It just literally made me think of like it's almost facets of people, facets of a particular personality or a particular type of person. I don't know if I'm on the right track here, but
Yes.
yeah, that's what I feel like I got from spirit just now. It's telling me as you're talking. So I just wanted to state that.
Yes. Yeah. And one particular object that I have that is my most active haunted object is what people know as Pam the doll. And yeah, Pam, at the beginning, when I first discovered that, that there was something within that object that I'm not seeing, but I am I knew that there was something there, but I just didn't have really the evidence yet because I didn't invest in getting into the field. But
Right.
I'd studied for so many years, but I'd never invested in really getting into it because and the reason for that, um, I don't mean to break off topic, uh,
Please do. You're fine. Go ahead.
but this is because I wanted to make sure I was in the right state of consciousness before entering the field. I've always wanted to, but I've only gotten in the field since the beginning of last year. So next year, January, will be 2 years in the field. But I've been knowledged by all this for so many years. But I only recently got in the field and formed a team only at the beginning of 2021.
Okay.
So, but Pam is where it started. And before the name Pam emerged, I called it the Ann doll because it is a Raggedy Ann. I didn't have a name for it, but I knew something was there. And I spoke to a medium when I began this quest for, investigating. And she told me that eventually the doll will give me the name, but I need to take it out somewhere and, I need to keep talking to it, ask.
Okay.
Okay. So, and interesting she said that because eventually it did.
That's crazy.
And then I named it. I'm not going to publicly announce the name yet because I do want to release that with the entity itself, telling the
Sure.
public what its name is. And because I do have that on record of the true name. And it does say it in a inhuman voice as well, and only people that would really study demonology would be able to understand the name it's announcing.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of it's in the deep trenches in within demonology. You really have to search hard for this entity. It's an ancient demon.
Wow.
So this this doll at the beginning, the very first thing I remember, the very first thing that I did was I broke out my EMF detector, one of my first devices, and I got a temperature of 66.6, and it stayed on that on the doll for
Oh,
like a good while. My fiance comes into the living room, and then all of a sudden the temperature started rising back to normal.
that's crazy. And oddly enough, I don't know if this applies to anything at all, but as you're talking about this entity, I hear two swords clink together like
Oh, really?
war. Yeah, I don't know if that has anything to do with this entity particularly, but I literally heard two swords clink together. So I just wanted to point that out. I don't know,
Can I
but I'm
point
feeling
out?
it. Say that again, Emily.
I- Can I point something out?
Absolutely.
I just started writing this down and I don't know if it's true or not. But so, like, what I was getting is because of the Annabelle doll, the feel that I got was the entity picked that doll on purpose because of the stigma with the Annabelle doll.
Mm-hmm. It's quite possible because, um, because the fact of what, I mean, if you look at the Annabelle doll, first off, too, is look at what the doll resembles. It resembles a clown. Clowns and spirits collaborate very well together when it comes to using this to inflict fear. It's a fear tactic tool,
Right.
and it's the perfect housing for a spirit. So, and if you look at like Native Americans, they paint their faces up and stuff. They do like these ritualistic ceremonies and stuff where they would paint their faces like in some cultures like clowns and to communicate with the dead and the spirits. So, you know, the resemblance of the Raggedy Ann doll being resembling a clown is a huge attraction with the spirits, and definitely, like you said, with the whole Annabelle deal, especially with how that phenomenon is very known worldwide. It's very, very for something as like malicious of what's in Pam,
Uh-huh.
it could be an easy target for a doll like that to vessel itself. You know, and what's interesting is what's in the doll is where I'm fascinated about because where I got this doll, it's a secondhand store here in California where I bought it from. So it was used, and I had no intention on buying it because it's a haunted object. I had the intention I bought the doll for. Don't get me wrong, I was drawn to it because I haven't seen a Raggedy Ann doll, a vintage one that large, like anywhere with my bare eyes before, and I've always wanted to collect one just to put one with I use it as a Halloween prop because I love Halloween. You know, I decorate my house with a lot of a lot of stuff for Halloween, and
Heck yeah.
I deck out this whole paranormal theme area, and I grabbed that doll from that secondhand store. I was like, this is perfect. I got a deal on it, and but what I didn't realize buying the doll and then later finding out what's in the doll, the entity that's in the doll would have to be conjured in the doll by somebody, by a very dark practice of conjuring demons to put that in that doll. So this is not a demon, a type of demon that would voluntarily just vessel itself in the doll. This
That's
type
very
of
interesting.
entity requires a satanic ritual, a ritualistic conjuring.
Wow.
That's what's crazy. That's the extensive of danger that's surrounding this object.
Yeah.
And when I disclosed this name to this to the medium that I'm good friends with, the first medium that I basically contacted and started speaking to from the very beginning of all this, um, she she even said so herself, that this doll is not to be touched by anybody, not even my fellow team members. She said I could touch the doll. That's okay, but no one else, because if anybody else touches that doll, not only chaos will happen to them, but also I could suffer some repercussions for allowing that to happen.
This is very much like I'm feeling you were destined to do this.
Yep, I was just thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I'm picking up destiny, honestly. Like you were destined to do this type of work. Not only that, but destined to get this doll for a very important reason.
I was just
Yeah,
I was just gonna say that. You were you were literally led to pick that doll.
yeah,
Yeah.
that exactly. Oh, and that's interesting that you guys said Destiny because the woman who sold me this doll at the secondhand store, when I returned back there and looked, but they said they weren't supposed to sell it to me,
Oh.
Mm.
and I was like, oh, all right, well, I already sold it. They asked if they could buy it back from me, and I was like, no,
I
yeah,
Yeah.
don't blame you one
but
bit.
especially finding out what's in the doll, I don't want that in the wrong hands now.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's like the way me and you started chatting as I found your IG page and I had a question about, or I was talking to you about my haunted object. I have a mirror that I bought from a yard sale. So that's how me and you kind of chatted at the very first, over time. And, that's kind of how it was for me. It's like I was drawn to this mirror for some reason. I don't just
Yeah.
stop at yard sales randomly and buy an object. And I
Mhm.
keep it here and bless it and keep it covered and protected because I don't want it to get in the wrong hands because I can deal with it. But I'm scared if I, give it to somebody else or whatever, then something bad's going to happen. So that's why I keep it. So I can relate to that.
Oh yes, because there's some really dark stuff they could do using that.
Exactly. And I'm
So
thinking maybe already has, or it's seen something really bad, like a bad domestic stuff or something. Something's in it, but I haven't I'm still kind of, excuse me, I'm kind of a pussy to investigate it. But because I deal with stuff anyways, as being a psychic medium and a medium that specially deals with paranormal.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I totally get that.
Well, yeah, especially as a psychic medium, you're a primary target for these things. So you're going to feel every bit of it.
Yep.
Anything that happens, you're going to feel the fullest extent to it.
Yep. And
Yeah.
I've noticed that if I can recognize what's going on, if it can't get to me through me myself,
Hmm.
it'll target me through other people and start manipulating their ways towards me, especially people close to me.
Yep.
So very manipulative things going about. That's
Yes.
how stuff works.
Yeah. Especially with haunted objects. If they can't get to you, then they're going to get to the next person that is closest to you and use them against you and emotionally affect you. Then it'll affect you.
That's exactly what happened to me with the mirror. It was doing it with me and my fiance, and
Yep.
we both realized it because he's sensitive too. He's able to pick up on things and see things, and like he has more of an explosive temper sometimes when it comes to certain things than I do, and
Mhm.
he has to like check himself. And we figured all this out, and that's why we sealed the mirror the best we could, and
Yeah.
it's working so far.
Yeah, usually that the signs are usually always having to deal with the small things, getting super angry over the smallest things. And that
Mm-hmm.
it's those triggers right there are huge signs where you're like, wait a minute, listen to us. We're getting mad at this about this. Like that and when you start building that awareness, that starts to kind of shield yourselves from the uh the attacker
Yeah,
because you're aware of that it's affecting you, and that's
yeah,
what
and
it doesn't
people
want.
don't notice it. You're
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
People just
because
don't see it.
yeah, it's like a crazy person that doesn't know that they're crazy, but they are.
Yep.
It's it kind of run. It's like that situation. But about Pam though, this object with it having this ancient entity in it, it commands over 1,000 spirits. So it's got 1,000 spirits that it commands. Um, so you if you think about that though, this one object, this one doll that has this ancient demon in it, along with 1,000 other spirits with their own consciousness, their own characteristics, their own personalities. So when you're dealing with an object like this, you get scrambled easily if you don't know what you're doing, and it uses that at the full extent against you to manipulate because you
Yeah.
don't know who you're talking to. People are like, oh, I'm speaking to this one. This is what's in it. Are you sure that you're speaking to the actual, the person that or the entity that is in charge of the doll, or you're just speaking to one of the lesser spirits?
Yeah. That's
Because it takes a lot to of this documenting I've been doing and studying on each of these objects to find out exactly who's in control of this object, like what's going on with it. And now with Pam, I'm starting to get this idea that I think that there's something even bigger going on with just this ancient demon and these other 1,000 spirits. Something much more out of a lot of people's thought process in haunted objects. This is and this is where some of my photographs that I posted. I had to post some that show what some of the entities that are involved with Pam resemble. And they resemble very reptilian in nature. So, whatever demons are involved in this, we're talking also extraterrestrial spirits involved in this doll.
yes, like other dimensional type
Yes. So, we've got a
places.
bunch of multiple interdimensionals in this doll.
I could
And
believe it.
and you got the cone shaped heads with this almost like a piranha shaped face and reptilian mix. It's very very mysterious and vicious looking. And so you got characters like that in this doll. Um, so then you're looking more into what this ancient demon is involved with. It does correspond to the planet Venus. And so it could be involved with several, interplanetary, interdimensionals, and um, and all in lower realms.
Yeah.
So um, this entity is also it doesn't have a true shape to it. So I kind of I'm getting the theory of based off my knowledge and my experiences and the patterns and everything. Is this what a jinn is? What is this? Is it not? It doesn't really have a true shape. It likes to it could take the form of almost anything, but it really is just a mass of energy
Yeah. Yeah.
of what this demon's form is. And so it gets really bizarre. So, and there's other demons and even devils that work along close with this ancient demon. And that's where I'm getting at, where I think that the primary speaker of the doll is who I call Pam for short, for who it really is. And I'm haven't been actually speaking to the one in full control of that doll. And I
Yeah.
think it is, and I'm going to hint it, an aerial devil.
Okay.
But this aerial devil I haven't been able to really disclose or expose this entity on EVP or evidence of this. The reason why I say this is because of the patterns, and the activity that corresponds from this doll, and that stuff that you would only see this type of power coming from something at the level of a devil.
Yeah.
So that's why I think that there is also the one that's just ranked just over the head of the ancient demon that I've studied. That's what spoke through this doll. It actually is housed in this doll, but hasn't spoke out because the one I call the speaker is actually guarding what's really control in that object.
The craziest thing is, like, it's probably been about 5 minutes now, and I keep seeing it. I keep seeing Pam, but it's
Mm-hmm.
almost like a shaking face. Like, I see faces switching out. Like, I was seeing that even before you said that, switching out with this doll. It's almost like a, how would you say, like a glitch, and then something else comes in, switch, switch, switch. So I can
Yeah.
feel what you're saying for real. Like, it's crazy. Wow.
Also,
Yeah.
I want to add, I had to grab my rose quartz like probably 5 minutes because I started getting severe pelvic pain. And I
Oh,
shouldn't have
really?
any kind of pain with all the medication I'm on right now.
Yeah, she had a tooth pulled today, so thank you for
Oh,
being here,
Yeah.
Emily. You're doing great.
wow.
I'm saying like I shouldn't be having any pain at all
No.
with the
Mm.
medicine I'm on, and I really feel it in my pelvic area.
She is a clair sentient medium, so she feels before anything else.
Oh, okay. I got you.
So I can feel the
Yes.
the the amount of pain it can afflict on somebody.
Yes.
Rose quartz is helping, thank God.
Yeah. There's an experience that I've had when I was at the near beginning of investigating this object, and this happened it caught me off guard, and it was just shortly after, it was like a couple days after I had a rosary that was customly made for me, made out of black onyx, and I had smoky quartz on there, and it had all the right protection properties for me for what to get me started, what I was doing, and it Pam the doll, or the entities in Pam, cut my rosary when I walked in the kitchen. I walked in the kitchen, and all of a sudden the beads just flew off onto the ground, just
Oh
went
no.
everywhere. And um, yeah, it was. I already knew that where it was caused from. So so I went through two rosaries. I had to replace it. The person that customly made it, I told them to thread it with metal wire, and they double threaded it in metal wire. Still broke it.
Wow.
Broke that one. And I was like, okay. So now that's why I stopped doing the rosaries, and now I'm doing, right now I arm myself with my silver chain, with my pentagram, with the Solomon protection seal,
Yeah.
and something that hasn't been able to break through now. And I also have a solid silver Celtic cross and black tourmaline around my neck, and selenite attached with another small black tourmaline attached to it to keep it cleansed at all times. And since I had that, I've been able to take a lot more control, not just based off my awareness and confidence, but this has created a shield.
Yeah.
Also, like I have the same thing on my ring. I have the same pentacle with the Solomon protection seal on it, and I have a Saint Benedict ring, and a lot of people know that as the exorcism ring. So
Yeah.
I have a lot of protection on me, and I sleep with my rings on. I never take my rings off. I have had, this is again off subject, but I feel like I have to say this before I forget. And this is a experience I'm not sure if I even shared this story even on my lives. I woke up one night, and this was also at the near beginning of the investigation with Pam. And I woke up in the middle of the night. I can't really pinpoint what time it was. I wish I would have looked at the clock to see what time it was. Usually I'm good at doing that. Um, but the moment had me frozen stiff, like I was in a paralysis state for a moment. And I haven't had that in a long time. And I look up, and it's just there's this really dark spot that's like over me, just like almost like a pitch black cloud just over my head. I know something's there. And it's just like, you could see it's kind of getting closer, close enough for me to reach. So I finally get out of this, fight or flight mode or paralysis state. And I reach my arm up and see if I could touch it. And I touched where it was, and it was ice cold, colder than ice. The ice touch on my fingers, it like hurt. It was like putting my hands in, and you know, the coldest ice water possible. Like it was, I can't even describe the cold. It like sucked the life out of the blood cells of my fingers. That's how cold it
Wow.
was. And so something was definitely there. And the second that happened, in my mind, I had to, say say my own prayer to make this disintegrate away from me. And it did. But I felt like it took a lot of energy of me doing that, because I put all my energy into this prayer.
Yeah.
And it did go away. The other very threatening experience I've had, and I've never been scratched before. I made this clear on a live before, at least not that I'm aware of, but I'm pretty sure I would be aware of a scratch by a demon, because I've heard from mediums that they burn for a long, extensive amount of time. But I have been attacked in the eyes before by Pam.
Oh wow. Oh
Yeah.
no.
So, and when this happened, I was running the Ovilus 5 device, and I was in the middle of asking questions through the device to try to help me with my research on my laptop. I was investigating some photographs I've taken, and I have the box going, the Ovilus box, running as I'm doing this, because sometimes it'll start telling me some information about these photographs. And so some entities out there will start actually telling me what's going on in these photographs. And so things like, portal and all this stuff was coming through, and I was like, oh, is there a portal here, or is there a portal in what I'm looking at in this photograph? Then all of a sudden, my eyes start burning, and I can't even bear to open them anymore. And they start tearing and burning. It felt like I put hot sauce in my eyeballs.
That's awful.
Yeah, and it was like so painful. And every time I slightly had my eyes open, it was just blur. I couldn't see anything. And I kept rubbing them and putting water in them and stuff. I went to the sink, put water in my eyes. Still the same clarity, just blur. I couldn't see a thing. And I thought I was going to go blind. And then as this is happening, I hear the Ovilus box, because I didn't turn it off. It says eyes burning. Like, those are the 3 words, like, so it liked what it was doing.
Yeah,
Burning
creepy
eyes.
as F. You know what I'm saying? Creepy
Yeah.
as fuck.
Yeah. So I took that as a warning to what I was really getting myself into. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, this is where knowledge is extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
I knew right there what I was dealing with, what I have in my possession is something extremely dangerous. So that's where I had to start really putting some warnings and precautions and stuff of, start, going public about Pam a lot and start telling people, be careful watching this, because
Yeah.
you can suffer attachments through an object like this electronically. Um,
Speaking of that, I don't mean to cut you off, but
no,
as me and Emily filmed the intro of this video, and I have spoke with you about this, we've had so many problems with audio and things not going right, like things that's never happened before. So we literally did just the intro to this video, or I'm sorry, this episode. And yeah, we had tons of. And Emily, if you want to say, briefly about what's been happening to you with your electronics, same thing. I think hers may be more worse than mine.
My phone started acting up probably, I would say, 4 days ago. My
oh,
um yeah, so it doesn't let me do voice memos like through regular text message anymore. My camera on there, when I try to do, like, sometimes when I talk to my friends, I'll send them like a video, cuz like if you have an iPhone versus a Samsung or whatever, you can't do the voice memos through text. So I'll send like video messages cuz it's easier. And my camera's being friggin' weird. Um
mhm.
my Memoji that I started using is being weird. And I'm
Oh,
actually recording or we're doing this on the tablet. So I'm using my tablet too because my phone started acting up. And every time I try to work on something related to this episode, that's when shit stops working.
Yeah,
mm,
and then this did not we did the, first recording on Sunday, and
mhm.
we mentioned Dead Serious Investigations, and ever since then and we're used to this, so you don't take it as a
Yeah.
insult or anything. This is normal for us to have this stuff happen, but ever
Oh
since
yeah.
we've mentioned we're bringing you on or
Mhm.
tried to record, it's been something audio or visual or electronic, and then as well as I've been talking to you, associated with that black cloud and the things you're dealing with, I also see blue lightning. I can't explain it. I can only tell you what I'm picking up, but there's
Mm.
something associated with blue energy or I don't know, but it's just crazy. I just wanted to add that real quick as a validation to what you were saying.
I wanted to add something too. So like Chas, I told you in the messenger, but about that dream I had about the doll.
Yes, I
Mm.
And
forgot about that.
yeah, so I had a dream the other day, like 2 days. I don't know if it was like 2 days ago, but I think it was Wednesday. But anyway, so basically, what the dream was, I'm pulled into this classroom type setting, and I'm sitting at one of those desks that the teachers push together so you can put like a bunch of people at a table. So I was sitting there with, I think it was two or three other people, and there was a doll in the same room as us. It felt like it was like on the teacher's desk, and the teacher was creepy and just a bitch in general, but she's trying to get us to do these weird math problems that make no sense, like converting units to units that have no correlation to one another. And I remember being like, I can't do this because I can't do math, period. And these units, you can't convert like pounds to like fucking length and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got screamed at, like screamed at, like you have to do this, blah blah blah. And then I was like, I can't do this, the doll is making my brain scrambled.
That is
Oh,
crazy.
oh.
And the doll was like this old looking porcelain looking milk tea curly haired like doll, and it had a little fancy hat thingy. And I remember like it was a little frilly with this white-ish, like kind of off white dress because it was old and dirty, and like this pink, I don't know if it was like pink dots or little strawberries on her dress, I don't know, but the doll was fucking creepy. Yeah.
That's like a disturbing nightmare right there.
Yeah, and I was just like, I'm not doing this. I don't have to do this. Like, I'm not in school anymore. I'm done. And she's just like, you have to do it. And I'm just like, no, I don't.
Yeah, it's crazy. So we've been having some things happen associated with the things you're saying as a validation too of what you're saying, because
Yeah,
like I can feel as I'm talking to you, I can feel the energetic
yeah,
presence, not around me, but as in general, like there, yeah, there's something definitely in this doll,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's not good.
It's
yeah,
fucking with me right now because I put the rose quartz on the side it hurts, right? And then it switches to the other side.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also want to mention the thing you said with the eyes burning.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Chastity, I didn't mention this to you, but when I was at my parents' house having that haunting, one thing that always happened to me, and I never correlated it with anything because I just thought it was my fucking body being stupid, like it usually is. But I used to get burning eyes, and they would come out of nowhere, and it would happen all the time. And it would feel like you ever cut a jalapeno and then, forget you cut a jalapeno and then go to take your contacts out, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had that happen on multiple
And that's a
occasions.
definitely a nasty entity in her house. So that's referring to like her past hauntings and stuff. That's
Yeah,
awful.
yeah,
So I can absolutely say I've experienced the burning eyes too.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was probably the one moment, as you know, since I was a child, that I was actually starting to panic that I was, uh, you know, something was going to happen to me that would affect me for my life, my eyesight.
Understandable.
Like I thought I was gonna lose my eyesight. I thought that was it. I was like, I lost my eyesight. It got me. Like, and then I had to kind of stop myself for a moment, and I heard it saying that, burning eyes, like I heard all these messages, and I had to stop, just completely stop everything, stop panicking, and I had to really focus and just kind of, you know that it's the entity causing this, and I can stop it.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
I did basically what I did when I had that dark cloud over me, and it stopped. My eyesight started slowly coming back. There was still a bit watery, but the burning was gone. And my God, it was probably a little over a minute of my eyes burning. It felt like a longer time, but I know it was only like a little over a minute that went by. But yeah, it just out of nowhere. And I didn't have anything spicy. I wasn't rubbing my eyes. It just came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
Like
that's
someone
I'm
just,
sorry that happened. That's crazy.
yeah, it literally felt like someone jammed some like she was saying, like when you touch jalapenos or you're cutting some peppers and then you rub your eyes.
Yeah.
That's literally what the moment felt like.
Yeah. And if you compare it to other people too, because I'm thinking about Zach Baggins, his
Hmm.
eyesight got all fucked up. And then I know of another person who I think lost their eyesight in their one eye permanently.
Hmm.
Hmm.
They eyes are extremely important. We use them for seeing, and so they if they can't get to you in certain ways, they're going to try certain other ways that they know that's going to actually truly scare you.
Yeah.
And
Make you stop.
yeah, exactly. So and that's where the knowledge and how to protect yourself and to be able to control yourself from to be able to stop and focus in the moment. And that's where it's difficult for a lot of people, because when you're in the moment in that kind of state of fear, in that state of panic, it's hard to stop and focus.
Yeah. It
So
comes form. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
that's all right.
I also say it comes in the form for me as like an anxiety or panic attack. So it makes me think I'm having a heart attack. So I'll have to calm my because this will come out of nowhere. I'll be fine, no stress, nothing. It
Mhm.
comes at me and just literally makes me have to like take huge deep breaths, anxiety, sweaty palms, like, and I literally sometimes have been in that state for 2 hours until I can calm myself down. And if I would have went to the hospital, I'm pretty sure it showed that I was mimicking a heart attack, but I never did because I knew it was spiritual and I knew that I could take care of it if I just tried. Now, granted, if it got too worse, I would probably go to the hospital, but that's how it's affected me is through like panic attacks, anxiety attacks.
Yeah, definitely. So, you know, with Pam, that this is where, I knew that there's something within Pam also that's is starting to reach, when basically adding up those patterns of like those types of things that affected me. When you look back at that, I know that there's something bigger going on besides that ancient demon. I think it's the one that he works just under, because it says in demonology that they work very closely with each other and he works just under him. So
Yeah.
therefore, could it be possible that he is connected with him in that doll and he is just the speaker because he's protecting him?
Yeah.
This is
Makes
very
sense.
possible. And it's
It is.
interesting that you said blue lightning, because the reason why I want to bring that up is because I got the message storm through my Ovilus box several times.
Oh,
And this was always raising the question to me, why is storm coming up so much? This is why, because when I was first really getting deep into investigating Pam, the experiment we conducted, I put seven of my uh, dolls all in a circle with the REM pod in it to generate that electromagnetic energy. Plus, there was an electrical storm going on during that
that's what I
process.
saw was electrical storm.
You guys want to
Yes.
know something funny or freaky?
Mhm.
What's that?
So I have a friend who was literally not text bombing, but she's my friend, so we were going back and forth, but she doesn't really text me all that often, and her name is Storm. Shout out to Storm if you're listening.
That happened today.
Yeah, she's been texting me all day today, which is fine, but it's just interesting because she don't text me that much.
Yeah.
Ah,
But yeah, her name is Storm.
yes.
So hi,
So
Storm.
that so yeah, that's really interesting. You said, this blue lightning that leads to this storm. It's just it's amazing.
Yeah, because like when you were telling me that experience, like you
Yeah.
laying in the bed and you reached your hand up. So I can't explain exactly what this is, but when somebody
Mhm.
tells me about experiences or dreams, it's almost like I see them through their eyes. So when you reached up to touch that black cloud, that's when I started seeing the blue lightning. It looked like a thunderstorm and blue lightning.
Yeah.
That's what I saw visually as a vision. And then I heard like in my because I'm clear audient, not audient, but claircognizant. I've heard blue lightning or thought about it. So that's cool.
You
Yeah,
know what
that
I'm
makes
seeing?
sense.
Mhm.
You know those things in arcades that you can win as a prize, and it's like it's like a crystal ball thing, but like you put your finger to it and
Oh
then
yeah.
like you get the lightning. That's the
Yeah.
images they're showing me right now.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. I like a with the Tesla coil in within the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's Pam, and then I got objects like Angela the doll, which was when I got Angela. Really, when I got Angela, I got it as I got it as a gift from some close friends of mine, Obscure Medium, and they crafted this doll from as an antique doll, and they crafted it into a doll of my liking, and my I'm a huge fan of this movie from Night of the or the '80s called Night of the Demons, and it's like literally my favorite horror movie. It's always has been. So I was like, this is my chance for some really cool Night of the Demons memorabilia. So I asked if they could craft this, and they said, of course we can. So they made Angela, which is Angela from the movie. That's what that doll resembles, is that possessed woman in that movie.
Huh,
And
how neat.
when I got this doll, I already knew right away when I got the doll that this doll is only going to attract lower realm entities because of what it
Yeah.
resembles. But at the same time, I also was thinking they got a doll that was secondhand. It's vintage. If there's something already attached to it, when you alter something that some entity is attached to, it's not going to be happy about that, about what it's changed to. So it could react to what it's changed to in a violent way.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I also had to keep that in mind too. When I brought the doll here, there was a huge um feel of, well, there was some instant anxiety. This was a huge flag to me that there's something low vibrational. Usually instant anxiety is a sign of demonic activity.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I knew I got it on my altar real quick, and the altar I cleansed and blessed to present a new object to put in my collection. So that way I could kind of, I basically talking to the object to allow it to that, it's going to be here. I will take care of it. I'm not going to let anybody harm it, but I can't let what's in it to harm anybody else. So, doing my binding process to bind this, to keep it grounded in place in the collection area. After that, it was completely fine. I felt fine. I felt there was acceptance, that I understood. Um, when I went live with a friend of mine, Ryan, he's in England. He that we were talking, and we had someone jump in that was a medium, and she was able to kind of see something within that doll while we were talking, and it kind of caught me off guard a bit. I wasn't expecting that to happen. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll take some notes of this, because she was saying, if I say this word, I'll probably be able to get a hold of what's in the doll, that it's this. And basically, after that live, the next day in the morning, it was 7:20 in the morning, 10 minutes before I had to get up for work. So I got woken up, unfortunately, which I really hate when that happens, but
Yeah.
especially in a circumstance like what happened. I wake up to having to wrestle with a demon in my bed.
Oh.
And so, and how this happened is I'm in a paralysis state. I can't move. And this, of course, a paralysis state happens. There's always something demonic in activity happening or about to occur.
Yeah.
Um, and because the only times that I've ever had paralysis state was that one time I saw the dark cloud, and another experience that I had that was, I'll get to it later. But besides that, my childhood, I had a lot of paralysis when I was a child, but all throughout my teenage years, paralysis, all throughout my 20s, no paralysis. But just depending on what I start getting myself involved in is where
Yeah.
that starts occurring. So the paralysis state happened. I I have my head facing the fan. We have like, especially during the summertime, we have the fans running because it gets really hot, you know. So it was, I had the fan right by my head, and it's almost like basically the fan is changing the sound frequency within the room. So it's a whole nother sound frequency that, you know, our human ears aren't able to hear. But if we're hearing through another sound vibration, and entering the environment, we might be able to hear through the sound of the fan. So the spirits are probably using that sound through this vibration through the fan that I'm hearing from, because it sounds like the voice is coming through the fan, not the room.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
the
you're the
third
makes
person
sense.
that's told me that about fans. I
Yeah.
swear you were the third person that has said that to me.
Yep, and I've heard
Just
it from other people too.
Yep.
yeah. So that's how it began, paralysis, and then this I heard laughing in the fan, and screaming and laughing and wrestling sounds, like, and it sounded like multiple voices intertwining with each other. You ever seen the movie Evil Dead?
Yes.
And you know, like the people, how they sound when they're possessed, that voice, that's the
Yes.
voice that, what it sounded just like that. That's the only way I could explain it. Multiple
Spine chill.
voices intertwined. And it was making these wrestling sounds, like and screaming at me and laughing. And then it was picking up my right leg. So my right leg was literally levitating, and it was being pulled off the bed. And then my right arm, it started with my elbow, it started levitating too, and it was trying to pull me out of the bed. And I was using all my energy. I couldn't move my body, but I was trying to use everything to to wrestle it off. And you could, like, when I was looking at my arm, I could see my arm slowly kind of retracting back to my body, but then it was being pulled again, and that's where it was wrestling. It was going like
Oh,
that.
that's terrifying.
That's happened to me
And
too.
and all of a sudden, it got to a point where I started losing the feeling in my arm and the leg that it was grabbing, like as if it was starting to kill all the blood cells out of my body, like on where it was touching me. It was just numb instantly, pins and needles and everything. And
Man.
I at that point, I was like, is this what it feels like to be possessed? Is this it? I'm going to get possessed by this thing. It's happening. I'm getting possessed by one of the entities in that, you know, in my house, where the dolls, it's doing it. And then as soon as that moment hit my head, or hit me consciously, I hear a calm male voice through the fan over that demon's voice saying, "You could fight this." And as soon as that voice came, I immediately pictured a bright beaming light surrounding my body, so bright that it extended, it grew from just around my body through to growing throughout the whole bedroom and out the door. And as I pictured that and put all my energy into it, this demon's voice slowly was echoing away. And I started getting feeling of my hands, arms, and legs, and got it retracted back into the bed, and I was drenched in sweat.
Oh man, that's
Oh,
crazy. I feel like that was either I did hear I wonder if it was Michael. I heard Michael, and I don't know if they mean Archangel Michael or
yeah,
somebody else named Michael. That's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, interesting you said that. Is I was, you know, I do a lot of work with Michael, and
Okay.
on my altar, and I do call out for, you know, his assistance a lot during investigations, before my investigations and afterwards, and a lot of times before I go to sleep, to, you know,
Yes.
just to keep an eye on things while I'm sleeping, because that's when they like to feed. So,
Yeah,
uh,
I do too. But yeah, I swear that's what I got. I heard Michael,
mhm.
and yes, that makes sense.
Yeah. I checked one of my because I have selenite in all four corners in my bedroom, and I checked the selenite that's closest to me by the front door, where I pushed the entity out to, and underneath the selenite stick, at the bottom part of the selenite stick, is yellow. This stands for that too much negative energy was absorbed into it. That's the only
Yeah.
way that could happen, and it wasn't like
Okay.
that the day before.
That's amazing. I mean, so great. It's chilling, it's scary, but at the same time, it's an amazing a story to have to experience something like that.
Yeah. So then I look into like what attacked me. Now I had to find out, especially as a demonologist, I had to find out that what demon attacked me, what is responsible for this. I had to know, especially not in an angry way, but more of to so that way I could protect myself and understand like exactly just that be more aware, and it didn't take too long for me to add up the pattern. When I contacted the medium that saw this within an object, Angela, she was messaging me saying that she couldn't stop thinking about that doll, and I
Hmm.
was like, well, as soon as I said I was in the middle of typing, well, I wrestled with a demon last night or this morning, and before I could send it, she said she got attacked yesterday. And I wasn't even, or yeah, I didn't even finish sending it, and I sent it, and I read her message, and yeah, she said she got attacked, and then she sends me a photo of her leg covered in bruises.
Oh,
I was like, what? I was like, did we get attacked by the same thing? And it's still, I'm still trying to understand what's going on with that situation, if we got attacked by the same thing, but there's huge possibilities because
I think so. I'm gonna say yes.
she may have looked into a doll. I think she probably did it without its consent, because I really wasn't on the topic of talking about Angela, and because Angela was a very new object still. I didn't really publicly tell too much about Angela yet. And I
Yeah,
think that upset what was in the doll. And I think both me and her suffered some repercussions. And
yeah,
it's a warning.
definitely. And you, like you were saying in a conversation we were having, is they know before we know.
Yes.
So exactly, and I feel strongly that it was the same thing, just a
Mm.
different type. And it'd be interesting. Like I feel like it happened around the similar time. Might not be exactly the same, but I think it all kind of got up and
Mm.
whatever it did to get the energy, or it already had the energy, it
Mhm.
pushed it straight out. It
Yep.
was multiple things, it seems. I keep getting a woman. I keep seeing like a haggy type
Mm.
feminine energy. I don't know where that's coming from, but I feel like there's a feminine energy
Oh,
present with some of that. I
yeah.
don't know if it aligns with anything, but it's what I feel.
That wouldn't surprise me. Especially with how this, I mean, the doll resembles, possessed woman, and it, liking to take a form that way definitely would make sense.
Okay, yeah, because I don't recall seeing this object on your channel, and if I have, I'm not aware of which one it is. To be 100, I'm not going to lie,
Okay.
100% honest. I don't know which one it is.
Oh yeah, no
I have
problem.
to definitely find it, but yeah, I keep getting a haggish type, feminine energy, but
Mhm.
evil, violent, like clawy, like Scott. I don't know if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this object, it's because of what it actually understands what it resembles, because the doll is wearing a black wedding dress and it said Mary through my Ovilus box.
That's the doll. I didn't know its name. Now I know which one you're talking about. My apologies.
No problem. That's fine. I forgot to send you the name to it. Um but it's so I don't have a name for all of my objects, but it's one of the objects that I have a name for because of what it resembles. That's why it's called Angela. So that's the story
That makes a
behind
lot of sense.
why I call that doll Angela.
Wow,
Um,
I didn't even know that. And yeah, that does. It looks like how an old hag would dress in a way.
and the crazy thing though is that when I went live about when I actually went public really about explaining Angela, and that I was going to actually do this investigation with Angela live with a couple of friends of mine from Australia, the ones that created Angela for me. They wanted to participate in this, and I was like, sure, especially I wanted to see how this doll would react to the people that sculpted her. I was like, this would be an interesting experience because, and it would be an experiment too, because then this would show the, the vast distance of, through electronics that it, the activity can traverse even through people from the other side of the world
Yeah.
during the moment. And we got a completely different time difference. We're talking about 17-hour time difference.
Yep.
So that didn't even matter to it. So this really comes to show that how people have to really take it serious when, you know, they start like trying to, mock what they see of a haunted object online, because that entity that's in there has conscious abilities that people don't really understand, and
Mm-hmm.
they can attach electronically. And it's kind of like when someone's being disrespectful to someone's house. Those things, that's their vessels. That's where they're housed in. So they're going to treat it like their home. So they expect you to respect their home.
Exactly. You know, I have the same feeling about, even though I might not work on the shadow path or work with descended, what I refer to as descended spirits, I still have a respect and
Exactly.
understanding. You have to.
Yeah, you
It's a
have.
line.
It's
Yeah,
same thing with me. It's like I don't work with these entities. I study them to protect people and myself.
exactly.
And it's so, that's what separates me from demonologists, you know.
Exactly.
So a lot of people get that confused that don't really know what the whole ordeal of demonology, of studying it.
Yeah.
So, you know, and demons, they get really threatened by my knowledge, but as long as my confidence is, not affected, and I'm talking subconsciously too, because someone could be confident, but if they're not, if in their subconscious mind is not confident, it's all it takes, so you could be, I'm confident, I got the courage, but really deep down in the back of your head, you're not. And they know that.
Yeah.
you know and I will admit, I've had situations like that where I told myself, like, I'm not afraid, but I knew deep down I was afraid, and at that moment that's where I would be touched or tugged or something. Paranormal activity would happen right then.
Yeah.
you
We
know
were literally just talking about how sometimes you become desensitized to scary things when you do
Mm.
this a lot. But that is actually, I was thinking about this, that's actually dangerous.
Yes, especially with having a lot of haunted objects, and living, with them in your living space. And, I got my studies right below them. And if I grab a book or something, a lot of times there, there's some times where there's just no activity. Like they don't feel like being active, and then sometimes it's just amplified. And,
Yeah.
and that's another thing I would like to talk about, is the timing on stuff. Is that spirits, when people are out investigating, it's normal for people to get impatient and try to forcefully drive the spirit out to get some evidence. And I definitely, I, I, I don't recommend doing that. And I oppose doing that.
Agreed.
Because when you're out there, you're on their time, you're on the spirit's time. It takes a lot of energy for them to manifest. You're on their grounds. And also respect that, when you're on their grounds, this means, um, basically going out there with a good intention, investigating whether if it's a good spirit or a bad spirit.
Mhm.
So when you're talking back to it, even like, say the entity says you're stupid or something, and you say, no, you're stupid, or you call it ugly or something, that's immediately provoking. That's what it wants you to do.
Mhm.
So when you do that, then it's like, okay, now I'm gonna fuel it up, and then it just gets fueled up, and then it just starts. Uh, it's feeding off your ego.
Can I
Yeah.
add
So
something?
yes.
I want to add an experience that I had doing something that I should not have done. Wi-
Yeah, go ahead.
with regards to Robert the doll.
Mm-hmm.
So I was listening about his story on a podcast like in 2017 or 2018, and I heard that, he harmed animals and whatnot. And my dumbass, just out of pure reaction, was like, I'm not gonna say what I said, but pretty much how I thought that was evil, and how I disliked that, but I said it in a more like vulgar way. And the second I said that, I was sent to the ground with chest pain.
Mm.
Out of nowhere, chest pain sent me down to the floor, and I had to sit there for like a good 5 minutes.
Oh man,
Hmm.
that's that's disturbing right there.
Yeah,
Lesson learned, but that was before too you really
I
knew
didn't
like
know.
anything.
That was before I was or understood that I had been awakened and could
Yeah.
feel anything or see anything.
It's a great example of what not
Yeah,
to do.
exactly. That's what I mean.
Yeah, definitely.
And,
But it's a learning experience.
mhm.
I've done things. Uh, you know, being in the paranormal field, there's some things that I may have done that I've learned from, and that's the process of learning. Like, oh, I look back at an older investigation that I've done and learn from it. Like, oh, well, I could have done this better as far as, the way I asked the question, the appropriate way I should have asked it, or maybe I shouldn't, you know, drove it that far, or maybe I could have took this approach instead. There's like things that that we do as investigating this type of phenomenon that we learn from too in the process.
Right.
So
It's very important, and so far everything you shared has been amazing. Like it's a great perspective. It gives people, an idea of what they can expect and whether or not they ever want to even try to do it. It's like, kind of like a warning in a way, but also too, I mean, it gives you the perspective of what to expect.
exactly. Exactly. And another thing I wanted to bring up is, when someone buys an object and they start having paranormal activity, and they know and they feel and they could tell that the activity's been being drawn to the object that they bought from the secondhand store. And they don't feel like that it's a demon or anything bad, and it's just like a child spirit. That's usually how it begins, because I'm going to tell you right now, only 1 out of 10% chance that it's a earthbound spirit that's
Yeah.
in the object. 9 out of 10 chance it's something demonic in nature. If it's
The
not a
most
demon, it's something lower realm.
the most
Very, very
famous of is Annabelle. That's like exactly how Annabelle started. And I've met Annabelle. I was 6 inches away from Annabelle, and the pictures that we took of her, that phone battery exploded.
Oh,
Yeah, I've got a whole story. Like, probably after this, we're going to jump into my story. Like, when the
hmm.
next episode, we're going to cover the whole Annabelle thing. And yeah,
Oh,
it was a
wow.
trip. Yeah.
Oh, I can
I,
imagine.
yeah.
Yeah, because
No, it's
I know damn well that that doll has something far beyond what people really think that's in that doll, because and there's a lot I think in that doll. And another thing that a lot of people don't realize is that in these objects that have demons in them, you got to think there's never a demon inside a doll. It's demons, because demons don't possess or take control of an object. I have to say the right terms, not possess, because they don't possess the doll. They haunt the doll to possess the living. So they use it as a tool to wait for a victim. So that's one thing I got to make sure I'm saying correctly. So now, what's in that object, though, when I saw for the first time ever in my life, I saw the Annabelle doll. um, like the actual picture, and I immediately got anxiety just looking at it through the phone.
Yeah, it was intense. I mean, the whole room, I'll tell you, they had it set up in it was in a hotel, but it was like a side room. It was like a funeral procession through the occult museum. I mean, we were literally inches away. Nobody dared to touch anything because the New England Paranormal Society folks were in there watching. Everybody was respectful and stuff like that, but it was like a funeral procession. And they had Annabelle so guarded, not as in like how close we were, but as in a protective way, energetically. I felt nothing in that box, but I'm going to tell you what, the object next to it, the witch, it was like there was something definitely like there. And I
I know
have
what
a
you're talking
theory.
about.
Yeah, I have a theory that the entity was almost like mocking, standing beside of the box.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it was almost hovering and waiting because I mean, we questioned like, is this the real Annabelle? Because I mean, even we've met Tony Spare that day and everything,
Mm-hmm.
and like it was Annabelle, but it was so guarded and protected because they have done so much and actually switched the box for like they don't take the real
Yeah.
one out, switch her. And yeah, it was fascinating and the stuff that happened, but the energy in that room, it was very low and like solemn, almost like a funeral procession.
Chas,
Oh.
you
Yeah,
showed me that picture and you asked me what I felt from that, and I said I didn't feel anything of that
yeah.
doll either.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was like it either was so protected or guarded, or it wasn't in there. But literally inches next to it's where I felt a huge amount of
Mhm.
energy. Like, and it was very. It was staring right back at me. I mean, it was the witch too. The witch. I mean, she. It was almost like they were playing mad. What's the word?
Musical chairs?
Mm, yeah, musical chairs. There we go.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, the only other doll that I've seen on TV or the web or anything that I felt an effect by was Peggy.
Oh yeah.
Sax Museum, and seeing that when he revealed that on his he had like a side series thing going about haunted objects, and Peggy had an episode on there, and he allowed people to see the face, and the second I saw the face of Peggy, my heart was racing, like I felt like it was going to jump out of my chest.
Ugh.
And I immediately had to say, I said nice things about the doll to it, and then all of a sudden my heart rate went back to normal.
Wow.
I was like literally complimenting that the doll was a pretty doll, that it's very intelligent, and saying these nice things, these compliments, and all of a sudden my heart rate went back to normal,
Whoa.
and I was
Yeah.
sweating, I was beating sweat. I had another friend that wanted to see this object, so I told him to check this out, and um yeah, he said that, and he was skeptical too. And he said that he said he was sweating, and he said he just turned it off. There's something about this, these objects, certain char- characteristics within them that, you know, that drive them to do these things. And that's where the personalities in haunted objects come in place.
Yeah, I keep seeing like facets of people almost when you keep saying that every time. It's like a different emotional aspect or ego aspect of
You know
people.
what just came to my
Mhm.
mind? Well, I heard a phrase, change places. You ever see that Futurama episode where Bender's in jail and trying to rescue Fry, and they're in this lunchroom and they're like change places, and then everyone shifts and changes places.
Yes.
Yes, actually.
That's the thing that keeps playing in my head over and over again.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
I'm wondering if, well, first off, like you said, it's when it comes to demons, it's multiple. So when you
Hmm.
have an attachment with a demon, you also get their legion with it, like you said.
Yes.
So I'm
Hmm.
wondering too if when you have multiple dolls and multiple objects, if
Hmm.
if somebody becomes suspicious of an object being haunted, if it switches around to throw off suspicion.
Yeah, definitely. Most definitely.
Because I keep getting that image in my head of them change, and I heard it too, change places.
Mm-hmm. That they I've had that suspicion for a while, and I think that some of the objects that I have, and like I said, I purchased a lot of secondhand objects, and I purchased them for not for collecting haunted dolls. I was collecting them back then for Halloween props, and I kept them as they were. I didn't like alter them in any ways, and some of them had the feeling, some of them I don't think had anything, but now all of a sudden I think they started being active because of certain objects. And
Yeah.
this can happen, that they could transmute over to others and they kind of spread themselves out. And that would make sense why I keep getting words in the Obulus device with my haunted objects saying things like even spread, and like it's
Uh,
evenly spreading out in these objects. So all these objects have different entities within from one object.
yeah, it's like they've created a collective conscious of their own.
Yeah.
Like the collectively, not just in the doll, but the way I'm feeling about it is like the even associated with the whole lightning and everything, the energetic
Mm-hmm.
vibe of it is they've created like a community. I know that sounds weird, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I also, I definitely agree with that. I think that especially because uh, the whole investigation with like Giggles, I think there's definitely something corresponding to Pam with Giggles. I think there's some type of connection within those two objects, especially. Not just because, they are the most stood out objects that I own, but I think because of how they're resembled, though, too. Because if you look at Giggles' hands, his hands look like they're like wanting to grab you. They have like these very skinny fingers. Very something that whoever created this doll, like it didn't look like a very friendly intention with these fingers. And to give your child a present by gifting them this doll like Giggles back then, even with hands like that, is just a little bit, horrific for a child, I feel like.
yeah,
And
I was 4 years old and had a clown, and my grandmother had bought me. I'm not scared of clowns. But there was something about it. I can't tell you now. I have it somewhere, but I wouldn't even touch it. I would scream every time I saw it because it just didn't look fun, you know?
yeah, exactly. There's certain intentions and feelings and the vibration you catch off of the object based off what it resembles, and then that's what it's going to attract.
Yeah.
So, a clown like Giggles it's not really going to attract anything, in high frequency. And with objects like, with dolls and stuff, haunted objects, these, so when you're talking about, let's say, like anything in a high frequency or high vibration, they're not going to be at they've already reached a conscious ability to not need to really bind themselves to a doll. They have no reason to use that to connect with you. So if you want to connect with, these higher beings, there's much more, divine ways to do that, but usually more of earthbound and lower realm entities will trap themselves or vessel themselves in objects.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
very good point. That's a
yeah,
very good point.
yeah. So it's same thing with like a Ouija boards. There's a lot of people that don't know better that use an Ouija board and use it to try to talk to their loved ones or to someone that has ascended to to a higher realm.
Hmm.
And but what they don't understand is someone within the higher realm is at no conscious ability to need to contact you through the an Ouija board.
Yep.
The only thing that's going to come through an Ouija board and just the likely chances of a haunted doll of what it is, 1 out of 10 chance it's a earthbound spirit. 9 out of 10 it's going to be a demon.
Yeah, I call it
Probably.
playing
Yeah.
Russian roulette with a planchette.
Yeah. So I myself, I don't use an Ouija board. I've almost convinced myself to use one back when I didn't know better, but I have no reason to at this point. I know that there's some people that are skilled and know how to use it correctly without, being so affected of this. I know some people out there that know people that do are really powerfully skilled with this, but as far as like the average paranormal investigator using this, um, pretty much prepare yourself for an attachment.
That's exactly what happened to me, to basically to a degree. I was 12. I didn't know any better, didn't believe in it. And my friend, she convinced me to use it. And I've spoken of this in a previous episode. And that wasn't the exact start of my experiences. It actually started before with the actual divine experience. But this
Mhm.
experience did lead me to seeing even more stuff, but maybe even more of a negative side of things. And then it just unfolded. And I spoke of this in my supernatural origins video, so I can vouch for that. Yeah, Ouija boards is something you really don't want to play with unless you spoke of. You're very skilled, and
Yes.
most of the time you're right. And I'd like to add briefly that when you connect with divine entities or ascended spirits, spirits of the light, especially, you are left feeling like even more centered, grounded. You feel the love.
Yeah.
So when I connect with past loved ones and relatives that are ascended, that I don't have to use any type of tools to do
Yeah.
except myself, it's a totally different feeling. It's a totally different ball game, and it really does leave you feeling loved and whole. It like balances my chakras and everything. It's an amazing feeling and nothing in comparison.
Yeah, you can't really compare anything to it. That's like the way to explain it right there.
We really appreciate you coming on. It's been fucking amazing. I mean, it's been fascinating to hear your side and your perspective of haunted objects and even more of the experiences that you share. Found a lot of related stories or situations, and I think we all learned something in one way, shape, or form through this episode. And I would just like to ask, do you have any, basically shameless plugging? Do you go ahead and tell us what you got for us?
Okay, well, everybody could find me on Instagram, Dead Serious Investigation underscore in between each word. You could also find me on YouTube. Just look up Dead Serious Investigation. You'll find me on there. Um, we got a lot of stuff coming up. Working on several projects right now. Dire Lane Investigation, first part one episode, hopefully will be dropping sometime soon. Probably, honestly, won't be around till the beginning of next year, but it's going to be worth it. And
Absolutely.
yes, I've been, dropping some photos, so keep an eye out on some photographs on Instagram. I plan on doing some short films on YouTube to kind of throw in some of the interesting phenomenal captures that we have. So keep an eye out for that. I do plan on continuing another segment of Pam the Doll voice archives with more voice captures from Pam the Doll itself.
Awesome.
So I do plan on doing another one of those. Yeah, you could find us there. And, you know, I hope all this information has been helpful with everybody with haunted objects. If you have any questions, don't be afraid or shy to DM us on Instagram if needed. If you have any questions, let us know. We'll answer them at the best of our knowledge. I'm always open to take questions. So, yeah, that's
That
about
sounds
it.
great. Yeah. I mean, and I'll link all of his information down below. So there'll be links. You can just directly follow him through that and find the fella here. So we really appreciate it. I mean, honestly, we're probably going to do a part 2 out of this whole episode, guys. So we covered the haunted objects, but I think in the next episode, we will be releasing more of an in-depth look into the situation and how the origin really of the story and different things that's happened. And there's a lot more to come involving this. So yeah, definitely check it out. And as always, we certainly appreciate you guys listening. Hey, if you have a haunted story you want to share, you can email us at lightsatmidnightpodcast@gmail.com. Get in touch with us there. We'd love to hear from you. We really appreciate y'all hanging around and checking it out. And yeah, thank you so much. We are super excited to bring you some super awesome content. We really appreciate you guys checking us out.
Thank you to all that took the time to listen to this week's episode. Your support means the world to us. And remember, all of us have the ability to shine brightly and shed positivity even in the darkest of places. Stay safe, stay well, and light it up!